Hey everyone, welcome back to Lumi and Prion. Today, I am Prion, and today we're going to be going over a list of perks in Dead by Daylight that I think are just problematic, in that they need a change. And not just any change, not a numbers change, not a slight tweak, but an actual rework. Because these perks are problematic for how killers and survivors interact with each other and themselves in Dead by Daylight. So, we're not just going to be going over perks that are problematic in that they suck and are useless. So no Beast of Prey, no Bloodhound, Soul Survivor. We're not going to be talking about those perks today. We are going to be talking about those perks that are annoying. You see them in every game. They drastically change the way you play depending on what side you're on. And maybe they force you to do things that seem wrong in Dead by Daylight, but you are unable to do them because of these perks. So, to start it off, everybody's favorite perk, Dead Hard. You knew it was going to be on this list. Everybody knew it was going to be on this list. We have to talk about Dead Hard. For those of you who might be new, Dead Hard allows you to, when injured and running, you press E, dash forward, and you have invincibility frames. Invincibility frames means that you cannot be hit. If the killer hits you during Dead Hard, their camera will just jerk away and miss. It is extremely strong, probably the best survivor perk in the game, hands down. Dead Hard can be treated as another health state in Chase. When used correctly, Dead Hard can turn a 1 minute long chase into a 3 minute long chase. It can connect different things together that you usually wouldn't be able to make. Like you go to one pallet, you run away, you're going to get hit before you get to the next window, Dead Hard to the window, the chase continues. So, the downside of Dead Hard, if you can even call it that, is that it exhausts you for 40 seconds, meaning it can't be used with our other exhaustion perks. But, yeah, it's the best perk in the game, hands down, for survivors. It screws over M1 killers extremely hard. Ranged killers are usually able to bait it out, or they have less of a penalty for missing because of Dead Hard, because they have shorter cooldown ranged attacks such as Huntress or Nemesis or other anti-loop characters that have ranged attacks. But your M1 killers like Trapper, Pig, Michael Myers are absolutely destroyed by Dead Hard. Simply the existence of this perk means that you essentially have to hit survivors 3 times in every chase, as long as they're not already exhausted. So, Dead Hard is a problem. I don't think that can be disputed. So what would I do to fix Dead Hard? A lot of people suggest a lot of different things. For fixing Dead Hard, some say to keep the invincibility frames, but reduce or even remove the distance to solidify its identity as a dodging perk. I think I have the perfect fix that would keep Dead Hard's identity as a perk for skillful dodging, but also remove its most annoying and game-breaking applications, which those are being chaining different loop locations together that you usually shouldn't be able to by using Dead Hard for distance to get to a window or pallet. So my proposed change to Dead Hard is that after its use, the survivor that used it is incapacitated for 5, 6, 7 seconds depending on level. Right now, incapacitated means that you can't work on generators or open chests or heal people or something like that. Along with this change to Dead Hard, I would also change incapacitated as a status effect and increase its effects to also affect vaulting and dropping pallets. So under my change, you would still be able to use Dead Hard as you can do now to dodge the killer and get distance, but for a certain amount of time after using Dead Hard, you can't interact with windows or pallets. So you can still theoretically use Dead Hard for distance, but you need to actually have a plan other than just drop the Dead Hard to the pallet, Dead Hard to the window. I think that would be a good fix for Dead Hard. I play both Killer and Survivor, albeit way more Killer. Let me know in the comments what you think. Next, Circle of Healing. Boone's Circle of Healing has been meta since it released. Not really much else to say about it in that way. It is the bane of every hit-and-run killer's existence. Legion and Wraith, maybe Pig, are having a horrible time anytime Circle of Healing is on the playing field. The main problems with Circle of Healing is that it allows everybody in its radius to self-care. It can go through floors of multi-level maps, and it can be relit an infinite amount of times, and there can be multiple circles of healing on the map at once. Circle of Healing being so strong contributes to a meta where killers feel like they cannot leave a survivor after hitting them, and thus contributes to higher levels of camping and tunneling, which we know all survivors hate. So yeah, the reason why killers feel like they can't not commit to chases is Circle of Healing. And the reason why killers feel like they have to go for the injured person right off the hook, Circle of Healing. So I have multiple fixes to Circle of Healing that would make it more balanced, in my opinion. First of all, we need to make it only on the floor that the totem is on. If you put a Circle of Healing in the RPD library at the top, it should only be on the top of RPD. You should not be able to use that Circle of Healing downstairs in the main area or in the hallways on the first floor or in some random corner of the first floor just because there's a Circle of Healing in the library. That needs to go. It is the bane of every killer's existence on indoor maps. It's just not interactive for the killer to need to search for 45 seconds to a minute just to destroy a boon that can be relit instantly. Not instantly, but the blessing time is not very long compared to the value you get from it. So next, going off of that, boons need to have charges. And I think those charges need to depend on how many people have brought boons on the team. Let's say one person on your team has Circle of Healing. You should start the trial with 3 Circle of Healing charges. Okay? You light the boon, it goes down to 2. The killer destroys the boon. You light it again, it goes down to 1. The killer destroys it again, you can light it one more time, but if they destroy it then, it's gone for good. I'm not really sure how the scaling would work for multiple people bringing boons. I don't think it would be too big of an issue if each survivor got 3 charges. Maybe you would need to do some scaling there, like scaling down, if anything, but that might be too brutal, and then people wouldn't want to bring boons at all. Frankly, that would be okay for me as a killer, but I need to think of the other side. So Circle of Healing needs to, 1, not go through multiple floors, 2, have charges. All boons in general need to have a limited amount of times that they can be blessed before they go away. And 3, my last change to Circle of Healing would be probably to increase the healing speed a little bit since it just got nerfed. But as a trade-off, I would put the healing speed back to what it was before. And then as a trade-off, I would make it so that only the person that laid the boon is allowed to self-care in it without a medkit. If you weren't the person that laid the boon, you need to have somebody else healing you or have a medkit to benefit from the speed. I think those 3 changes would balance Circle of Healing, and it would allow behavior to put the speed back up a little bit, if not everyone is allowed to self-care. Alright, next, boons in general. I think we already touched on this, but boons need to have charges. They need to have like 3 charges per boon, because the current state of boons is that the other ones, Shadow Step, Exponential, and Dark Theory, are not insanely strong. They're often not worth the time unless you're already using them on top of Circle of Healing. Like, setting a singular Dark Theory boon in a corner is not worth the blessing time, especially if there's not any structure that you're looping near the boon. So the change to that would probably be to add charges to the boons, like I said, but once you've added limited charges to the boons, then you would be free to make those underused ones a little bit stronger now that they can go away for good if the killer snuffs them over and over. because in their current state, with unlimited blessability, I guess I'll say, the 3 other boons, Exponential, Shadow Step, and Dark Theory, when they don't have charges, they are in a perpetual state of can't be buffed because they'll break the game, but they're also kind of useless, so it doesn't make any sense to nerf them. The problems are with the system of boons in general. So next on my list is Borrowed Time. I don't really have a lot of problems with this perk, but I was discussing with some other players who seem to have a big problem with Borrowed Time, and I have 2 suggestions. I probably wouldn't do them both at the same time because that might make the perk unusable. One would be a cooldown on Borrowed Time per survivor. If everyone has BT, then one survivor using BT would not deactivate it for everyone else. That is my least favorite of the 2 suggestions. The one that I really liked was a very simple change, and that is just to remove collision on a survivor that has the endurance effect from Borrowed Time. It's counterintuitive to want the killer to hit you right after you get off the hook. I think that goes against the philosophy of how you're supposed to play the game from behavior's point of view. So, it's just about removing interactions that seem wrong in the context of Dead by Daylight, and body blocking with BT is absolutely one of those things that should go. So if I had to choose between those changes, I would definitely just choose the remove collision one on the survivor that has endurance. Other than that, no more changes to BT. It's mostly balanced, but body blocking is a problem that needs to be addressed. Next up is Decisive Strike. I only have 1 suggestion for Decisive Strike, actually 2 suggestions. I think it's perfectly balanced like it is right now, but it would be a little bit more fair if they would add a couple of things to the list of what deactivates Decisive Strike. So if I go and look at Lori right now, click on Decisive Strike, repairing a gen, healing yourself or other survivors, cleansing or blessing a totem, sabotaging a hook, or unhooking other survivors. I think they should add opening a chest to the list of things that would deactivate DS, and probably also, never mind, actually no. They should not make opening the exit gates deactivate DS. That would be unfair. So my only small suggestion for DS is that they make opening a chest deactivate it, because technically that is an objective. Alright, next up we have everyone's favorite killer perk, Noed. Hex, No One Escapes Death, is a very controversial perk in Dead by Daylight, to say the least. You will get no shortage of very hostile messages from survivors if you are a killer that runs Noed consistently and gets value out of it in the endgame. Not really much else to say about it but that. So let's go into my changes. The problems with Noed are that it feels very bad to lose to. You feel like the killer was rewarded for losing, and you have no warning of when it's going to activate until you get hit. Those are some pretty big problems. A lot of people will say that the counter to Noed is cleansing all the dull totems, and while that is true, not every solo queue team is going to be able to cleanse all of the totems every game. So that's kind of a band-aid fix. So my simple change to Noed would be simply toning down the speed boost on the killer, maybe by a couple of %, and then also giving the survivors something to go off of during the game before the gens are done to show that the killer might be running Noed. Like, for example, what if you add a new effect to Noed where every time a generator is completed, the killer gets a bit of a haste boost for a few seconds? Or something like that. Something that a good survivor would be able to look at the killer after a gen is done and be like, guys, I think he has Noed. Because he can tell that the killer is moving a little bit faster than usual. Other than that, I don't think NOED has too many problems. It certainly has problems that need to be addressed, but I think just giving survivors a different way to guess that the killer has NOED with relative accuracy would be a great change to it. So yeah, that's all I have for NOED. Let me know in the comments if you love or hate NOED, if you use it on your killer or you don't. So moving on, we have Spine Chill. I have a very simple change for Spine Chill. I think it's a perfectly fine perk. It does get a bad reputation, as a lot of new players will just equip it and then go into a locker as soon as it activates for a second. But the big problem with Spine Chill is that it works on stealth killers. So you can tell when the Wraith or Ghostface or Michael Myers is looking at you, and that sucks. A single perk should not, like, completely invalidate stealth. Just one or two survivors having Spine Chill will, like, completely ruin the early game of a Michael player, or Ghostface will just get instantly revealed when he should have probably been in a spot where survivors wouldn't have been able to see him. Spine Chill just destroys stealth killers, and it really shouldn't be that way because stealth killers aren't exactly that strong right now. I think the perk just straight up needs to not activate if the killer is undetectable and looking at you. So that's all there is to that. It would definitely be balanced if they would just make that one small change. The last perk that I have on my list is Tinkerer, and I was hesitant to put it on this list. I don't think Tinkerer is that problematic for almost all of the roster, except for extremely fast killers. Tinkerer has some problematic interactions on killers like Blight and Hillbilly, in that they have very telegraphed and often loud abilities that go very fast and come from very far away. So a Blight with, like, Ruin Undying Tinkerer is able to just zoom across the map in 5 seconds and hit you before you can finish the gen, and then it regresses back to 0 with Ruin. I think that is not interactive for the survivors and just feels bad. So this is the one perk on here that I don't know how I would change. I don't have an answer for Tinkerer, and maybe it's fine like this. I just think Tinkerer on extremely fast map traversal killers that have Ruin Undying is not interactive and not fun to face. One more thing, honorable mention goes to Hex Undying, because I think it's bad design. Hex Undying is a band-aid fix for the mechanic of Hex Totems being too inconsistent. I think they need to just change Undying into something else and then just, like, actually make a real fix for Hex Totems to make them not so unreliable and inconsistent. What that would be, I have no idea. Changing the Hex system to be more consistent and interactive for both sides is a monumental task that I would probably have to write an entire essay about just to come close to solving. So that's why I threw Undying in there as an honorable mention. I have no fix for it. But that is the end of my list. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video and maybe learned something new. If you agree or disagree with me about a certain thing, be sure to leave your opinion in the comments below. I would love to talk about it with you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and share the video, and I will see you all later.